Inside your body right now, your blood carries a molecular signature that you were born with, that you will die with, and that connects you to a specific chapter in the evolutionary history of your species. The real story of why ancient humans developed different blood types is one of the most fascinating and still partly unresolved puzzles in human biology, and it reaches back not just thousands, but millions of years into the history of our lineage. Here's the first thing to understand. Blood types are not human. The ABO blood group system, the one most people know, with types A, B, and O, did not originate in humans. It originated in primates. Our closest relatives, chimpanzees and gorillas, also have versions of the ABO system, and genetic analysis has shown that these blood type variants are ancient, far older than our species. Some research suggests the A and B blood type variants may have been present in the common ancestor shared by humans and other great apes more than 6 million years ago. What this means is that when you think about why humans have different blood types, you're not asking about something that happened to humans specifically. You're asking about something that has persisted through millions of years of primate evolution, and the question of why it persisted is exactly the right question. The most important insight in the science of blood types is this: natural selection doesn't usually maintain variation. When evolution acts on a trait, it typically drives one version of that trait to dominance, because one version is better adapted to the environment than the others. If A blood type were simply better than B blood type across all circumstances, everyone would have type A by now. The fact that multiple blood types have been maintained across millions of years of evolution in multiple primate lineages is a strong signal that there is some advantage to having diversity in the population, or that different blood types are advantageous in different environments or against different threats. This concept has a technical name in evolutionary biology: balancing selection. It is the process by which natural selection maintains multiple versions of a trait in a population because the diversity itself provides an advantage. The most famous example is the immune system's MHC genes, where having diverse immune recognition molecules in a population makes the whole population more resistant to disease. The evidence increasingly suggests that blood types work in a similar way. This is where it gets interesting, because the specific disease resistance properties of different blood types have turned out to be genuinely remarkable. Researchers studying the relationship between blood types and infectious disease have found a striking pattern. Blood type O appears to provide significant protection against severe malaria caused by Plasmodium falciparum, the most deadly form of the parasite. The malaria parasite uses a specific mechanism involving a molecule called RIFIN to make red blood cells clump together in a way that causes the severe complications associated with fatal malaria, and this mechanism is less effective against type O red blood cells. A landmark study published in Nature Medicine found that people with type O blood were substantially less likely to die from severe falciparum malaria than people with other blood types. In regions of Africa where malaria has been a major cause of death for tens of thousands of years, type O blood is the most common blood type, and researchers have proposed that this is at least partly because of the survival advantage it confers against malaria. But if type O is protective against malaria, why hasn't it simply replaced all other blood types? The answer appears to involve a striking vulnerability that comes with type O. People with type O blood appear to be significantly more susceptible to certain other diseases, including cholera. Research has found that people with type O blood who contract Vibrio cholerae infections are more likely to develop severe cholera than people with other blood types, possibly because the cholera toxin interacts more effectively with the surface molecules on type O red blood cells. In environments where cholera was historically common, type O's malaria advantage would have been offset by its cholera vulnerability, maintaining a balance that kept multiple blood types in the population. This is a beautiful example of what evolutionary biologists call a trade-off. You don't get something for nothing. Type O protects against the thing that kills you in equatorial Africa and provides vulnerability to the thing that kills you when drinking water is contaminated. Type A or type B may carry different vulnerabilities to malaria, but different resistances to certain gut pathogens. The diversity of blood types across human populations may literally be a map of which diseases were historically most dangerous in which environments. The geographic distribution of blood types supports this interpretation. Type B blood is most common in Central Asia and South Asia. Type A is most common in certain European and indigenous Australian populations. Type O is most common in populations with long histories of exposure to the environments and disease pressures where its benefits appear most relevant, including many indigenous populations of the Americas and sub-Saharan Africa. These patterns are not random. They reflect hundreds hundreds of thousands of years of disease pressure, migration, and natural selection acting on blood type genes in ways that we are only beginning to fully map. Researcher, evolutionary biologist Ajit Varki, whose work on the molecular differences between humans and other primates has shed considerable light on our evolutionary history, has noted that the maintenance of blood type diversity across so many millions of years and across so many different primate species suggests that we are dealing with one of evolution's most persistent and carefully maintained balancing acts. Something about having diverse blood types in a population consistently outperforms having everyone with the same blood type, and the disease trade-off hypothesis is currently the strongest explanation for why. There is another layer to this story that most people are unaware of: the Rh factor. The positive or negative designation that follows your ABO blood type is a completely separate system with its own evolutionary history. Rh negative blood is rare in most of the world, but found at relatively high frequency in certain European populations, particularly among the Basque people of northern Spain and southern France, who have Rh negative rates approaching 30 to 40% compared to a global average of roughly 15%. The evolutionary reason for the high Rh negative frequency in these populations is not fully understood, and the Rh system's evolutionary history is considerably less clear than the ABO systems, though it too appears to involve disease resistance trade-offs. Here's the modern mirror. When a doctor asks your blood type before a transfusion, they are navigating a molecular landscape that evolution built over millions of years for entirely different reasons. The ABO matching requirement in blood transfusions exists because the immune system reads blood type antigens as identity markers and attacks foreign blood as if it were a pathogen, a property that was selected for as a disease resistance mechanism long before anyone was doing transfusions. The compatibility requirements that can determine life or death in a modern operating room are the direct consequence of millions of years of your immune system learning to distinguish self from threat. Inside your body right now, your blood carries a molecular signature shaped by malaria and cholera and dozens of other ancient threats, calibrated by millions of years of evolutionary trial and error, maintained because the diversity itself is the point. You didn't get your blood type randomly. You got it because your ancestors survived in specific environments against specific threats, and their survival shaped the blood that now runs in your veins.